Okay, we're going to continue on today. I want to talk about full moon a little bit. We just had full harvest moon. September the 29th was full harvest moon. Now the moon doesn't have a perfectly round orbit. It's elliptical. And sometimes the distance to the moon is 21,457 miles. But then there's sometimes the full moon is 252,712 miles. So the moon gets closer to the earth and it gets further away. But the time when it gets the closest is full harvest moon. Now at full harvest moon last month on the 29th, the moon was 224,854 miles away from the earth. So the moon was a lot closer. That's why the moon looks so big. It's because it's closer, and that's why it looks so big. Now, you got the same thing with this moon being closer to the earth. It's called a supermoon. And so it causes the tides to be greater. And now here in North Florida, we have what's called a nor'easter. That's when the wind blows from the northeast. It blows the water up in from the ocean up further than it's supposed to come. And then when you got a full moon to go along with the nor'easter, it floods the whole east coast of the United States. It floods places that it's not supposed to flood, but it does at certain times when everything lines up. Now you got the same thing with the full hunter's moon in October the 28th coming up in October. And you got the same thing, the full beaver moon in November the 27th. So we're going to have 3 months of super high tides. And it also means when you go to the beach around full moon, the rip tides are a lot worse. You have stronger tides, so it's a lot more dangerous, especially with smaller children that aren't strong swimmers. Now NASA has a moon viewing guide that you can tap into. NASA's moon viewing guide on the internet. And now, we just had a good time to plant above ground crops. Right before full moon last week, it's a good time to plant above ground crops. Now, this first week in October, it's going to be a good time to plant below ground crops because the moon's going to be getting smaller. You plant below ground crops when the moon's on the decrease, and you plant above ground crops when the moon's getting bigger. And you do it on fruitful days. And so this week, well, the neck is the bull, that's the second and the third. Those are good days, fruitful days. The Taurus, the bull, is a fruitful day. And the breast, the crab, the 6th and the 7th fruitful days. And you got the arms, the twins, they're fairly fruitful days. So you can plant a below ground crops. Your carrots, your beets, your radish, your turnips, your onions, all your below ground crops, be a good time to plant from the 2nd until the 7th of October. And then the 8th and the 9th through the 14th, those should be good times to plant, but they're not because these are barren signs. Sign in the heart, Leo is a barren sign, and so is the Virgin, the bowels. Virgo is a barren sign. So it's not a good time to plant the second week, but it's a good time to plant below ground crops the 2nd through the 7th. So we're going to have a time here the next 3 months that the moon will be closer to the earth. So it'll be some good viewing for people with telescopes and like to look. But if you live close to the ocean and you have a nor'easter to go along with full moon, you're looking at flood time. Okay, we're going to continue on. This is Numbers 11, verse 7. Now the manna was like coriander seed, and its color was like the color of bdellium. And the people went about and gathered it, ground it on millstones, or beat it in mortar, cooked it in pans, and made cakes of it. And its taste was like the taste of pastry, prepared with oil. Now manna in the Hebrew means, what's that? That's the first thing the Hebrew children said whenever they saw it was, what's that? And that's what manna means. And when the dew fell on the camp at night, the manna fell on it. Then Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families, everyone at the door of his tent. And the anger of the Lord was greatly aroused. Moses also was displeased. So Moses said to the Lord, why have you afflicted your servant? And why have I not found favor in your sight, that you have laid the burden of all these people on me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I beget them, that you should say to me, carry them in your bosom, as a guardian carries a nursing child, to the land which you swore to their fathers? Where am I to get the meat to give to all these people? For they weep all over me, saying, give us meat, that we may eat. I am not able to bear all these people alone, because the burden is too heavy for me. And if you treat me like this, please kill me here and now, if I have found favor in your sight, and do not let me see my wretchedness. So the Lord said to Moses, gather to me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom you know to be the elders of the people, and officers over them. Bring them to the tabernacle of meeting, that they may stand there with you. Then I will come down and talk with you there. And I will take the spirit that is upon you, and will put the same upon them. And they shall bear the burden of the people with you, that you may not bear it yourself alone. Then you shall say to the people, consecrate yourselves for tomorrow, and you shall eat meat. For you have wept in the hearing of the Lord, saying, who will give us meat to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt. Therefore the Lord will give you meat, and you shall eat. You shall eat not 1 day, not 2 days, not 5 days, not 10 days, nor 20 days, but for a whole month, until it comes out your nostrils and becomes loathsome to you, because you have despised the Lord who is among you, and have wept before him, saying, why did we ever come up out of Egypt? And Moses said, the people who I am among are 600,000 men on foot. Yet you have said, I will give them meat, that they may eat for a whole month. Shall flocks and herds be slaughtered for them, to provide enough for them? Or shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them, to provide enough for them? And the Lord said to Moses, has the Lord's arm been shortened? Now you shall see whether what I say will happen to you or not. So Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord. And he gathered the 70 men of the elders of the people, and placed them around the tabernacle. Then the Lord came down in the cloud, and spoke to him, and took of the spirit that was upon him, and placed the same upon the 70 elders. And it happened,